everyone. Uh, Here we are for the first time in a while. I have a guest. He is, no, sorry, that corner. Uh, we have Pizza Nozzle in the chat. Uh, and for those who do not know who we have in the studio, we have Baldy and, of course, Stefan. I have these ones in the studio as always. So let's get it here. Okay. Now, Mr. Catz, could you tell, for those who do not know who you are, off you go. Whoa, 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 whoa. There's people saying you are muted for some reason. How about we try now?
How about now?
Uh, I hope this one works.
Let's
Okay.
see what the chat say. Can they hear me? Here we go. There's a bit of a delay. We've got to wait about 10 seconds for it to come in.
For some reason. Sometimes it's a bit longer, sometimes a bit shorter.
I'll ask him. Can you hear me now? Now it
No,
works.
okay, now it works. Yes. Okay.
Now the thing is,
Start
what the chat don't realize is when I was muted, what I said was so profound. It was like the secrets of the universe all unraveled, and it's one of those things, one of those moments that you only get to hear once, and it's gone. I don't think I can say it again. So
yeah, basically teacher since 02
yeah,
UK, and
yeah.
you've had two channels previously, I think,
Yeah, a
and
couple
now
of
you've
YouTube.
got one Culture Cat.
Culture Catz now. I think I've had about 4 or 5 channels in the past, all doing different things. I don't even know what the one I've got now actually does, but it does whatever I feel like on that given week, to be honest. But yeah, but it's good to be here. Yeah, like I do enjoy discussions about education and about the impact of education on kids, because schools sometimes they don't forget what it's about. Of course, they don't forget what it's about, but it can feel when you're working in a school as if it's all about results, results, results. So it's nice to sit back and talk about things that actually affect kids and their well-being, because that really should be what it's all about.
Yes. So the infamous Timothy Gabriel from Florida, to my understanding, the official name is the Parental Rights Act. What it does is basically it brings the parents the right to pull their kids out of class and potentially out of school altogether, and then the school libraries, the school officials, the teachers can be fined $10,000 per student per instance. So 20 students in a class all complain. What does that do? 100, 200, $200,000. So is this productive?
It's hard to take seriously. First of all, like the $10,000 fine, they've done this before with the Student Religious Belief Protection Act. Are you familiar with that one?
I have not. It's something that I haven't. I have not looked at for this one. No.
Well, it was that was from Oklahoma, and it was Senator Rob Sturridge. He came up with that one, and essentially, it was if a teacher said anything that went against a student's religious belief, then exactly the same per student per incident, the parents would be legally allowed to sue for $10,000. Now, is the Don't Say Gable similar to that in that with the the Students' Religious Belief Protection Act, the teacher would not be allowed to, by law, to crowdfund for any kind of legal defense or to pay. The money would have to come purely out their own pocket. It was
Yes,
very much like
yeah,
a
yeah.
deterrent.
They would have to pay it out of their own pockets. Even their employer couldn't provide any. That would be, and they could be banned from teaching in that particular state for 10 years.
Hmm.
And in some cases, like repeat offenders or something, they could be ordered to be banned from teaching for life.
And it is ridiculous. What it does for people like me, anyway, is it takes the conversation away from where it should be, which is what is the right way. Um, what is the right way to deal with this issue in schools, because we do have we are always going to have children in schools who are questioning their sexuality or questioning the gender, etc. That is a conversation that's got to be had, how that is best dealt with. But when you start throwing laws together that are threatening basically to bankrupt people for having one conversation about it,
Mhm.
then you start talking about more how ludicrous that law is than you do the situation itself. And it's more damaging than I think these people realize. It's ridiculous. So yeah, sorry, that's kind of
Yes,
me summing it up.
and there is a federal level bill that has been introduced by a few dozen um, congressional representatives. One of them um, being a Mike Johnson of Louisiana, and 32 other Republican members of Congress. Just this part, when was this published? Yes, yeah, just this last week. Um, so basically, it's called the official name. YouTube may remove my video for saying this, but stop the bill is called "Stop the Sexualization of Children" Act of 2022. Uh, which according, okay, let's go for the article. So, and then I'll bring this article for Catz as well there. Anyway, it's to say, it says here that it would, according to these Republican assholes, it would prohibit federal funds, quote unquote, to develop, implement, facilitate, or fund any sexually oriented program, event, literature for children under the age of 10 and for other purposes. So they've had, apparently they've left themselves a loophole here. Okay, well, we want to get rid of this and this, and they've added and for other purposes, so they can do whatever they want, prohibit whatever they want, and then say, well, this, according to this law, we can do this. So what they are, and they are, the bill defines, I have the bill here. We may or may not go through it. Oops, not there. Okay, so it's, this asshole says it's common sense, but it's not. And they define sexually oriented material as any depiction, description, or simulation of sexual activity, any lewd or lascivious depiction or description of human genitals, or any topic involving gender identity, gender dysphoria, transgenderism, sexual orientation, or any related subject. And this is bullshit. Um, I mean, seriously, they are basically prohibiting any discussion about um, reproductive health because they, as I understand it, it will prohibit any discussion about any discussion of human sexual or reproductive system,
Yeah, I mean, and
unscientific.
I think that the thing is with these, coming from a teacher's perspective, these topics, I think sometimes the people that are really behind these, these kind of really extreme laws and extreme punishments for discussing certain things, kind of give off the impression that these topics are rife in the schools, And now, obviously, I've never taught in an American school. I can only come from the UK. But nothing is rife in a school. A school offers a broad and balanced curriculum. And then through that point of the year, whether it be in science or whether it be in citizenship, as we have over here, or PSHE or SMSHC or whatever, different things are going to be touched on for a small amount of time throughout the year. Some of those things are crime. Some of those things are race. Some of those things are religion. Some of those things will be sexuality. But nobody is doing this like nobody's doing a blanket constant nagging at children about gender identity and sex and you know the the fuss that they're making, it doesn't exist. So I don't understand it. And by putting a law like this in place, all you are simply doing is you are frightening teachers to a not engage with students about topics that they want to discuss, and b I just don't see. I literally don't see what problem they are trying to solve, because it's not the case that people are constantly transgender this or gay lesbian this, or that's just not how schools are operating, you know.
No, and
Um,
and in schools they do not talk about, they are not constantly math this, physics this, they're not every single day they are not bombarded with such things, and they are yet to come up with examples that they any examples that of these things that they are trying to ban. In, for example, there's these sports bills. They try to argue that these transgenderism folks come into. Okay, think we I think we lost Catz. Uh, okay. I think you dropped out. Oh, oh, wow. Um, there we are, I think. Okay. Yeah, okay, we're back. I think we're back. You dropped out for some reason.
right, you dropped out of mine. I don't know what happened there.
Yeah, you dropped from my screen here. Okay. Anyway, they are trying to prevent that. As you said, they're trying to ban something that doesn't exist, which is quite curious. That they are prevent. They are thinking of scenarios that probably no one has thought of before,
Yeah,
which is quite curious in many ways. And they define things so broadly that it could almost mean almost anything. And even the regular sex ed, just basic, vanilla straight, cisgender straight, vanilla thing, they can, to my understanding, as far as I can understand this text here, they can ban the vanilla stuff too, because all this, it defines as based on the article and bill says that sexually oriented material is defined as any depiction, description, or simulation of sexual activity. This would include, sex ed. They can ban whatever they want with this.
Exactly. And the thing is, the laws are already there. Certainly, again, I'm going to have to keep coming back to the UK because I'm not a teacher in America, but the laws of safeguarding are already in place, from my understanding, in US schools, certainly in British schools. The inappropriate behavior is already, the laws are in place to deal with that. If a teacher is having inappropriate conversations with a student, then that teacher will be dismissed. They'll be put on a sex offenders register. Those laws are already there, and to introduce laws as if there is some kind of huge problem that the current laws don't cover is just simply dishonest and untrue. And what it is doing is it's shining a light on a small part of society that at that age have already got their own issues and problems. They've got barriers to the social interactions and to the fears about going to school. They've got a difficult time as it is already, and they don't need this big spotlight shining on them when the laws are already there to protect them. And I would love somebody to give me an example of a type of behavior that a teacher could exhibit that current laws don't already cover. So I just don't understand the need to sensationalize it with these ridiculous fines, just like they did with the Religious Belief Protection Act. To me, it's about making a statement rather than doing something that's effective for the children.
And they're referring to these reading lessons that these drag queens have had in public libraries. And I think it's been an issue in the UK as well, and there have been instances, I think from the UK and here in Finland, that the drag queens have had their reading lessons. They've been reading stories and regular storybooks, etc., for children. Say children between the ages of maybe 5 and 10. And then that's been an issue for some reason, because they've argued that for some reason it's sexual content, sexually explicit content, because there's been a drag queen there present. And I'm not sure if it was in the law. It would be highly unusual if it was, but that kids, in their opinion, have been subjected to burlesque shows. And
Really?
it was. I think it wasn't in the bill itself, but it was in an article that I saw. But apparently, these people have never even been to a burlesque show, because they had no idea what they're talking about.
But again, laws already, and again, I'm going to have to default back to the UK because I'm not in America, but laws already are there to deal with that kind of thing. I mean, I can only imagine what would happen if a school I worked in, somebody brought in some people and put a burlesque show on for the kids. Just to imagine the world of trouble the school will be in, the teacher will be in. We don't need extra laws to deal with that.
And not just with the parents.
Yeah.
It would be law enforcement, social services. No, it just cannot be.
Schools in the UK.
And I've been to enough burlesque shows in my life that I can tell you that no such thing would ever occur in an actual school in real life.
Yeah. No, it's incredible. It's like bringing a law in to say, well, we need to stop. We need to stop kids shooting up heroin in the middle of the religious education class, and we're going to fine £10,000 to all the teachers who do it, because none of us want kids shooting up heroin. as if that's some kind of problem that's happening and laws aren't already there to deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
It is crazy, but it's about making a political statement and making parents who have, very strong beliefs in those parts of America feeling as if they can hound out teachers that they don't particularly like, hound out teachers they don't like the sexuality of, or whatever. That's what this. Because can you imagine that
Mm-hmm.
if there
If
is a teacher who happens to be gay or lesbian or whatever in a classroom, a child asks them, "What are you doing this weekend? So you're going out with your husband, or you're going out with your wife, or
mm-hmm.
whatever?" Suddenly they're in a position where even if
they
they,
can't out
they
say
yeah, they
anything.
want to reply to that and build a relationship with the kid because they're having a conversation with them. Well, £10,000, please.
Yeah.
Crazy.
And Peter's saying in the chat, if they don't want lewd, suggestive, or sinful literature, then why Bible?
There's some stuff in
I
there.
mean, Lot's daughters, for example. Are you familiar with the story?
Are they the ones who wanted to get the father drunk and then get impregnated?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then that was a biblical thing to do. If you want to read lewd, suggestive, or sinful literature, read the Bible. Because the LGBTQ content and sex ed are something far less sinful, if you will, and there's a reason. This kind of shit is one of the reasons there is such a high teen pregnancy rate in the US, in the states where these people are working in, or are coming from, these politicians. Those are the states with high teen pregnancy rates, high teen abortion rates. They can't, because they are not allowed to teach or talk to the kids or the teenagers about contraception, etc., etc. Well, we know what comes out of that then. Yeah.
It's it's difficult to me. There's a spectrum when you are talking about mention these kind of topics in a school. There is a spectrum. There are things that are blatantly inappropriate and should never ever happen and never be said blatantly, and then you've got the other end where we're talking about reproduction, about pollen and the stigma on a flower, and that which clearly we should, and there's a spectrum, and everybody's going to draw a line in a very, very slightly different place, aren't they? But and I've forgotten the point what I'm going to say there. I think that was the point, that these things do have to be spoken about at some level, but it's a case of where we draw the line. Now, what this law does is it comes in and it says, if we don't like you, it doesn't matter what you say. Doesn't matter what you say. If it happens to fall in this particular area of conversation, wherever it is on that spectrum, we're going to hammer you for it. You got no choice for it, and it's not a healthy environment for the teachers, not a healthy environment for the kids.
No one.
And I'm certainly not, advocating in any way, shape, or form teachers sitting there like having conversations about sex with the students or anything like that. But we are talking about the need and the opportunity for children to discuss current social issues in classes that are affecting everybody, and sometimes they are going to involve topics that are centered around sexuality or gender identity or whatever. It's not as if you're walking into the classroom and saying, "Oh, you never guess who I humped last night." It's not that kind of thing.
Yeah. I actually found an interesting part of the bill. Okay, so this is the bill that I mentioned, that they are now trying to push in the federal Congress. Go there, and okay,
Got it. Yeah.
I'll bring you this one too. Okay. So it's subsection. So it's this bill here, um, from House of Representatives. So page 3, section 4, subsection A, lines 11 through 19. So no federal funds may be implemented to be made available to develop, implement, facilitate, fund sexually oriented material, whatever the hell that means. I mean, telling and talking to kids about being straight, heterosexual, being a heterosexual is a good thing. That's talking about sexually oriented topics, okay? Involving sexually oriented material, and what exposes children under the age of 10 to nude adult individuals who are stripping, lewd, or lavish dancing. Who even comes up with the idea individuals who are stripping to put in a bill? Seriously?
As if that is a problem, as if that is something that is happening. Like I say, add into that, and stop them being exposed to people who are snorting coke. Because it just doesn't happen. The laws are already there to stop that.
It's already illegal.
Yeah, it's already illegal. It's already you'd be on the sex offenders register in the UK if you did that. Your life wouldn't be worth living. I think it goes without saying that that's more than just a little bit naughty to do that kind of thing. I don't. It's a sense. It's
you just cannot do it. I mean, and why is it that sexually oriented programs might as well just refer to as their heterosexually oriented lack of sex ed. It's because in many places it's just don't, but they still refer to sexually explicit. Indirectly, they're referring to two or more naked adults having fun together, which is quite weird. Double standard, perhaps?
I think so.
You cannot.
No, you can't. When it comes to sexually explicit material, I wouldn't show that I talk up to 18-year-olds. I wouldn't show it to 18-year-olds. Nobody's doing that kind of thing. Never mind 10-year-olds. So it is a bit sensationalist. But again, like we said before, that kind of language is very, very vague and open to interpretation. So what me and you think of obviously as sexually explicit material, that hasn't been really clearly defined, has it? No. So it gives the option for a teacher to say, well, actually, we saw an episode of, we talked about an episode of Supergirl, and one of the heroes in Supergirl, it happens to be a gender hero. I forget which one she is, but anyway,
trans anyway.
No, I forget which hero she is.
Oh yeah.
I forget the name of the hero. Yeah. Sorry, that's what I meant. You imagine showing somebody an episode of Supergirl in a citizenship lesson to talk about what it means to be a hero and rights and wrongs and morals, and then somebody goes home and says, "Yeah, we saw a clip today, but one of the female superheroes in it was transgender," and then suddenly that's £10,000 for the teacher. This is what this bill is opening the door to, which, just like with the one we spoke about at the beginning, that opened the door to $10,000 for talking about evolution. It is ridiculous. Do we know when the voting on this bill is?
This one, I do not know. I don't know if I mean, it will be voted on, but I do not yet know when the vote is, because this was just initiated, as I said, just over a week ago. So it wasn't that long ago.
You see, the problem with this bill, when you compare it to the other DAF one, the Religious Belief Protection Act, the Students' Religious Belief Protection Act was so clearly stupid that that was never going to get in. Fining somebody £10,000 per student per incident for talking about evolution was ridiculous, and it would never get in because it just sounds ridiculous. But when you say to a parent or a governor or anybody who's going to be involved in any sort of voting on these kind of things, if you say to them, we are putting a bill to stop schools bringing in sexually explicit material, everybody instantly is going to go, brilliant, I'm behind that, because we're all behind it. But the wording of the rest of the bill does leave it open to massive abuse, doesn't it? And we all know what the real meaning of that bill is. So I'd be worried that this has got much more of a chance of being passed, maybe at least with some sort of modification.
Yeah, I personally, I do not have kids. I wish I did, but if I did, I it would be a huge issue for me if someone uh, came in to give a good old fashioned striptease show for minors, say grades 1 through 6. I'm not okay with that. I wouldn't. But this, what we are talking here, is something completely different. They see these conservatives see this as something immoral or something that it, it's a question. It ultimately this is a question of morality. What they think is or isn't immoral.
Yeah.
Which isn't something that you should having a proper education is not a matter of ideology or Christian morals or Muslim or Hindu morals.
Yeah, and I think that like we said, the language here is so vague. With that, it just, I mean, I'm just looking at it now, on the screen, and teachers not allowed to encourage classroom discussion about. Now, of course, when I was teaching the classroom, if I walked in and somebody said to me in front of the class, wanted to have a chat about having sex with somebody, of course, I'm not going to have that conversation with a student at all, let alone in front of a classroom. I'm not going to have a conversation at that level. But if somebody come in and I'm teaching a reproduction lesson and somebody said, oh, well, how are identical twins different to, non-identical twins? I am going to answer that question. I am going to discuss what happens. And we're on this, because this is so vague, does that open me up to then some sort of fine, for it doesn't make any sense. The language needs to be very, very clear and explicit. And if it was clear and explicit, we'd realize the laws are already in place. And it is as simple. I know I've said that a few times, but it is as simple as that.
Yeah, it's really weird. I mean, the fact that they've made the wording so vague. I think what they're trying to do is they are trying to make the law future proof. If they come up in 5 years' time, they come up with there is a topic in this, shall we say, realm of topics. They can say, look at this bill. We can ban this. With this bill. How do you feel about this kind of that they are? Do you think they're trying to make these bills future proof?
I think they are, and I've seen some spectacular examples of where it's backfired on YouTube. There was I saw a brilliant video the other week, and I think it was Florida again, where they passed a bill it was a religious based on religious freedom, and they I think it was law that schools had to accept if parents wanted to bring up some kind of religious picture, like praising a divine being, praising. Well, I think that's how it was phrased. Schools had to accept it, and the idea was obviously in these heavily, this Christian belt, Bible Belt area, parents would be able to bring in their own posters praising God, directing people to different religions. Schools would have to have them on the walls, and because the bill didn't go as far as saying Christian, a Muslim parent turned up at the school board, and he had lots and lots of signs, about praising Allah, and I
etc.
think there were some from other religions, and he was reading out their own bill to the school. I don't know if you've seen the video, but the
I
school
have.
board was telling it just wouldn't have anything to do. They were trying to get him off the stand as quickly as they possibly could, and he absolutely ruined him. And at the end, they said, "Well, we only have to accept one picture, and we've got our one now, so we're not having those." It'll always backfire. So these things, like you say, there'll be a parent somewhere who's switched on enough to say, "Right, in your religious education class today, you talked about Adam and Eve, and that's incest. So therefore, I'm going to sue your teacher for that." So they're
And that
always
could
when
be, I mean, yeah, talking about Adam and Eve, you could, I think, at least in theory, sue someone for talking about sexually explicit material to children under the age of 10,
yeah. And
and
how
many
often
other
is Adam and
things.
Eve mentioned at that age? All the time, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just something that really baffles me. Of course, yeah, some years ago, Aaron Ra talked about this similar type of situation with the Religious Freedom Act in Oklahoma, and then they, eventually they ended up in a situation that the Oklahoma State Senate permitted religious statues on state property if it was privately funded. So some fundamentalist Christians came up with the idea of erecting a statue for the Ten Commandments. And then a while after that, the Oklahoma Satanists set up their own statue, and it was a huge thing. And then some schizophrenic lunatic drove over those statues and said, or at least the Ten Commandments statue said, "The devil made me do it," and so that threw it out the window.
Well, the thing is, all these things are always going to happen because it is a very hypocritical stance to take. Because if ever you're doing anything on any kind of religious grounds, and I'm not, you'll never hear me knocking people that've got religious belief. I'm not interested. I'm interested in science and people that misrepresent science. That's what I'm interested in. But at the end of the day, when you look into any holy book that I'm aware of, there are incidences of poor morals, of incest, of sexually inappropriate behavior, of murder. All sorts of people acting in all sorts of horrific ways. So any of these kind of weird laws that you put in can all be turned back on whatever particular holy book that school seems to want to be promoting.
What really baffles me is the importance of religion in the U.S. school system. It just, I mean, coming from a country where religion hasn't been all that important in decades, even as in primary school, say years 1 through 6 in the 90s, in a small industrial town, it's still very conservative. But even back then, it was something that it didn't even come up in school. In Finland we have mandatory religion lessons. Kids who are members of the Finnish Lutheran Church, we're forced to go to religion classes of that religion, etc. But beyond that, it's not even it wasn't even a thing. Um, be of course being gay was thought about and it was heavily frowned upon, but it wasn't based on religion. It was based on some age-old misconceptions. But in the US, it just even in 2022, it's all about religion.
It seems very much to be in that area, well, certainly Texas, Oklahoma, and
And the
well,
southern
obviously,
states,
yeah, around it seems to be, and I understand. If you go to some countries, if you went to some Indian countries or you know uh, Muslim countries, then the culture there is all around the religion,
yeah,
right? And that goes right up to the laws, doesn't it? I mean, we've got the issue with the Football World Cup in Dubai and their right attitude towards people's rights. But over there, it seems that they have the same attitude of a complete lack of tolerance. Some people where there are some people in that position of senator, etc., that want to create laws, want to create bills that establishes that kind of state where religion is, well, there's no separation of state and religion anymore, where the religion is stepping in and taking over. That's what some of them want, it seems to me, want to do, and they're doing it out of a complete lack of tolerance. This bill here is written not because of any harm, like we've said before, that is currently coming to children. The laws are already in place to deal with that. This here is born purely out of a lack of tolerance. The Student Religious Beliefs Protection Act was born purely out of a lack of tolerance for people that didn't share the belief in creation. And to be whacking people with $10,000 fines per student per incident,
it's
just
too much.
yeah, that just screams it. It's lack of tolerance. It's not. That's all it is. It's an absolute lack of tolerance, and I just don't get that from people who profess to be, Christian and accepting of everybody and love it. I can't put the two together.
Yeah, and I don't even understand where they think these poor teachers will even get the money if they were to be, if out of 20 students, say 10 or 15 complained, that would be like $150,000 per instance, per incident. That would be in Finland. That would be like a teacher's annual salary is something like 40,000 euro, 35, 40,000 euros a year. So that would be like five years worth of salary.
Yeah.
For a single teacher, and they can't even do a crowd fund, etc. So it's weird. Let's see from the chat. We have the turtle moves says most of the religious statues by the masters are rather lewd. Yeah, yet the interesting thing is that if you go, for example, to Saint Peter's Basilica or Cathedral in the Vatican, all the paintings, all the statues, they are quite could be considered by the makers of these bills could be considered sexually explicit material, but yet they approve of having their own crosses with crucifixes with cheeses having not much more than a loincloth, and that's not sexual, and that's not explicit material compared to just having a vanilla talk about people being gay or trans.
Exactly. Exactly. And this is where the future proofing, like you said, they're going to come under severe issues with that. It wouldn't surprise me though, because of the sensationalist language that they're using, such as let's keep sexually explicit material out of schools, which we all know you need to keep sexually explicit
Mm.
materials out of schools. We know that. We know the laws are already in place for that. But because that's how they're selling it, it'll get a lot of support. It wouldn't surprise me if it's voted through to the next stage, where hopefully then the people who are involved in that like force some kind of modification to it. You know, the $10,000 per student per incident is just insulting to anyone with a brain. You know,
It's
um,
huge.
if you are doing something sexually explicit with somebody of that age, or showing people of that age something sexually explicit, that is a jail sentence. That's not something that's happening in schools and we need to give someone a fine for it. That is a jail sentence, and that is your life
In most
screwed.
countries.
Absolutely, that's how it should be. um, and that the law's already there for that. So the language needs completely changing. It needs making much more refined and much less open to interpretation. But it's designed to be open to interpretation because it's a weapon for an agenda.
Yeah, and there's some Horntek saying um, evangelicals are a political bloc the conservatives need for power. So they placate them, and that bloc love the last president while dismissing his character because it's all about power. It's all about money. It's all about money. Um, and it's really weird. It just really, it always baffles me as to how that's even possible. First of all, to have a president like that, but that's besides the point today. And but then we have the evangelicals, Ken Ham, certain Mr. Bovine Stench, Kent Hovind, his son, etc. Because that is so unheard of. We have it because it's something that I've just watched from distance. In Finland, yes, we had this drag queen reading an appropriate book for uh, ele- elementary school age kids in a public library, and some conservative neo-Nazi assholes thought it was a good idea to storm in and throw eggs and shit. But it was horrible. But the response from the general public was that these were just pathetic individuals who didn't know any better.
Mm.
I mean, here they are just being laughed at, but in the US, they are praised and lifted on a podium for doing such things, scaring off little kids for their own personal gain, which is quite weird, if you ask me.
Yeah, they're trying to make a story, sensationalize, and make headlines for their own agenda, for their own gain, when it's really like the kids are quite fine and dandy as they are with current legislation. You know, it is crazy. You know, it makes you. I just got to keep going back to it. You know, they are making it sound as if there is absolutely horrendous behavior going on inside schools, going unpunished. You know, and I mean, maybe every now and then somebody does say something or does do something inappropriate, but they would do that no matter what the laws are there because they are criminals, and that is the type of thing that they would do, you know, and they deserve to be on a sex offenders register or in prison, or, you know, as far away from children as you can possibly be, and the current law will allow that to happen. But yeah, it's sensationalizing something
Do you
to
think?
give.
Do you think
Sorry,
it's about power?
uh
Seeking power.
I don't know about power. Maybe about seeking to, how can I
financial
Not perhaps individual power,
mm,
but in terms of taking over, in terms of our religion and our way of life taking over, that kind of power.
mm,
Yeah, perhaps our
financial
ideals taking over.
financial gain, probably, in addition to what you know what we discussed previously. Also, I think this provides because these people they have their own business empire because these people who are in the handle of power. There's, for example, Representative Mike Johnson of Louisiana. He looks the kind of guy who has his own financial interest in this. I mean, whatever it is, he gets he comes up with this stuff like this to show all these conservatives, evangelicals, hey, I do this. I know you like this. What I'm doing here. So give me money so that I can get re-elected, get some more money, and give you what you want, and such. Without, I highly doubt any of these are actually teachers or work in the field of education.
Oh no, no, they won't. These senators won't have a background in education at all. And if you're talking about money or popularity, I think we've only got to look to Alex Jones and the kind of
Oh
crazy
yeah,
stuff he said in the past, and the the status he got with, even though he's a fringe lunatic on a lot of what he said, he built up a massive, massive following and no doubt, successful financial kind of empire. And these senators will have an equally um, uh, loyal fan base, if you like, if they are trying to rubber stamp the way of thinking over all the schools and all the children and the community. So, when you talk about power and money, maybe there is that ego boost for some of the senators putting these things in place.
yeah,
Um,
and we have seen these certain orange faced as asshole. He's I'm sure he's behind these things. He's um what he when he became a president, he was stunned because he was and still is going bankrupt. And but I don't think Mr. Mike Johnson is going bankrupt, but he is trying to have his way to prevent it. You know, these evangelical parents, they say don't want um, they don't want their kids being told about uh, that someone's gay because they might get naughty ideas and they may even be enforced. You know, get reinforcement that okay, the kid is okay. I was feeling like this. Oh, I'm feeling that like this. Oh, it's called being gay. Oh, there are others. Oh, I might as well just go and meet some other gays. And that's so because it's all about controlling their offspring.
it's I think there's some people with some very strong, very very strong ideologies and very black and white thinking. But again, there are systems in place for children who are certainly in the UK. If a child was going through something and they were completely unsure of what they were going through, and they came to a teacher, let's say a child came to me and said, "Oh, sir, can I tell you about something? This is how I'm feeling, etc." The law is very, very clear. As a teacher, I wouldn't be able to ask that student any questions. I wouldn't be able to engage in a discussion about, "Oh, do you fancy him? Do you fancy her?"
Hmm.
Absolutely ridiculous. The law requires me to say, "Listen, I'm here to listen to whatever you've got to say, and then I'm going to take that information and pass it on to the relevant people." And then the child If they feel that they can trust a certain teacher, they can speak to that teacher, they can pour their heart out to that teacher then takes that information to the relevant safeguarding professional in the school, who contacts whatever the appropriate body might be, and things are put in place to protect that child. Nowhere, absolutely nowhere, will a teacher then turn that conversation into a discussion in front of the entire classroom. But what this bill would do is it would stop teachers even being that ear to listen by saying, okay, you tell me what you want, and then I'll take this on to somebody else. Well, that falls under encouraging discussion.
And that is something that, and I believe that is something that should occur in the sense that, encouraging conversation or discussion, because now in Florida and in a number of other states, Texas, Oklahoma, and so forth, they are creating an atmosphere of fear. They're instilling fear into these poor kids, and that shouldn't be the case.
No, these kids sometimes will feel like they need somebody to speak to, and for their own well-being, their own safeguarding, for their own safety, having a person who is a responsible adult in a school that they could go to, whether that be their favorite teacher or whether that be whoever, like, much rather have somebody there who is following a set of procedures, who will then lead to the better safeguarding that child. Much better them to sit there and say, okay, tell me about it, and that's encouraging a discussion, but we know that that's going to feed back in a loop that benefits the child, as opposed to that child thinking, well, the teachers aren't allowed to talk to me about this, and then they're feeling lost and they're alone, and then their own mental health spirals. The damage that might do, I don't know. I've never been in that position, but I can only think about the damage that might do long term to a child, and the distress it might put them under, to have nowhere to go.
Damage. There will be damage, even for the kids who would be considered by traditional definitions cisgender and straight, because by creating an environment of fear, they too will suffer from this environment of fear, and they do not get the proper education they are meant to have, and what these legislators are trying to get them.
And the kids being kids as well will almost feel as if it's their fault. If they go to a teacher and the teacher's very much like, I cannot have this conversation with you, then the child's going to walk away thinking, oh, what is wrong with me? He doesn't want to, and again, these feelings around these complicated feelings, then suddenly are they going to feel as if they should be guilty for that because the trusted adult doesn't want to hear about them, and what have they done wrong now? And it's going to compound things. So I don't know where this bill touches on safeguarding and those kind of issues. It seems it's so extremely vague that is not in there at all.
It does. There is no safeguarding, to be honest. That's your answer, because they are not guarding. They're not trying to keep kids from danger. They are putting these kids in danger. Unfortunately, even though they try to claim otherwise, if you ask them, they will tell you otherwise.
Yeah.
They do not see the harm. They do.
No. Well, they see the headlines, don't they? They see the headlines of keeping explicit materials out of schools. Everybody's behind that. Everyone in the country is behind that. Sure. Everyone in the world should be behind that. We're going to keep explicit. Of course we are. Like, who would not be behind that? And that is the headline that they're selling. But in practice, it operates, as we've discussed, it operates very, very differently, and it's not going to do anybody any favors. But the headline, you can imagine in those areas of America, how many people are going to get behind that? We're keeping explicit material out of schools. Well, of course you are. Well done.
But you are keeping that material out of schools already. for the past who knows how many decades and centuries. I mean, there yeah. Has there been any there's a different situation in the UK and where I live. There hasn't has there been anything like even close to this in the UK that you remember in say the past 30 years, 30,
No,
40, 50 years?
no,
No.
we've had incidences. I mean, more in Wales actually. The new curriculum that they're talking about introducing in Wales leaves the door open for, some people believe it leaves the door open for creationism to come back into the schools. So and there are religious. We do have problems with the religious free schools and independent schools, and the quality and safeguarding that they're providing for kids. But when it comes to sort of like LGBT and trying to stop that any kind of discussion of that in school, I can't think of anything like that in my 20
No.
20 odd years. I'm a bit older than I look of teaching.
There'll be another 20.
I hope there's a few more. I hope there's a few more than that, but yeah, we'll
Yeah,
see. Not of
it's
teaching
really
though.
weird. It's really, really weird. I just cannot. I mean, I've had my I've talked about this before, and it still baffles me as to how people can still call this education.
The interference in the America, I don't understand the way that it works over there. Clearly, I don't understand the role of the school board, the school board meetings. It all seems so different over there than it does over here. But it clearly is open to being infiltrated with people who've got an agenda. I mean, I did a video not so long ago about a group of young Earth creationists who essentially took the majority hold on a school board and were swapping out science textbooks for books that then became compulsory on the curriculum that taught about intelligent design. And there was a huge court trial over it, etc. It just seems so different to the way we do things over here. I can't get my head around, but there is obviously an issue. There is obviously something over there that schools can be targeted, for gender. And I'd love to do a stream where someone comes on and just explains it to me how the system works over there.
I would love to talk to this person.
Yeah.
I mean, sure. There's okay from the chat. There's an interesting comment. Corn Tech in the U.S. we have the gun threat to schools. This bill gives the GOP cover that they're concerned about children while ignoring the real issue about mental health of young males and easy access. This is a really good point. It's smokescreen of thoughts.
I mean, the gun threats to schools are absolutely horrific, and I understand that. To people in America, the right to bear arms is something that has been so deeply ingrained sort of in the culture, and a lot of them hold it extremely preciously, etc. And we just don't have that over here. So it's easy for me to sit here and say, oh, you shouldn't have guns, done. But I'm looking at it from a completely different culture. But what strikes me over there is the people who support owning guns, fine, right? And I understand that's part of what the country has been about for a long time, that right to bear arms. Absolutely no problem with that. But some of them seem to almost discard the school shootings, with silly, almost like flat earth kind of debunks, as if like, well, yeah, we have school shootings, but without guns, we'd have more violent crime. It'll be worse. Or people with guns will stop the school shooters. And it's just every single time there's another incident that happen again and again and again. There seems to be a small section, because they've got these extreme beliefs, that just don't want to have the conversation about how do we regulate things better. There's always an excuse of why it can't be done, rather than let's solve the problem.
Yeah, I know, I know. In my immediate family, I'm aware of one person who is just the sort of person that they see there's the problem A, uh, and solution B would solve this problem, but they just don't wanna because they get something out of dwelling in this problem. Uh, they think there are awful lot of things wrong with the school system. And this person actually is actually a qualified teacher. Uh, they haven't been teaching for 20 something years, but they're still qualified to teach. And it's it just horrifies me that this irrational religious person could be teaching kids all kinds of interesting things about uh, LGBTQ people, and this person has shared some of the ideas that it's sexually explicit content and shouldn't be taught to minors. It's, I mean, teachers like this do exist in Europe too, not just the US.
Hmm.
It's really, really disturbing.
It is, but the laws already,
In place, yes.
exist for for that as well. Um, and it is difficult because you can you can almost get away with somebody being bad at serving in a coffee shop or bad at this job or that, and when you've got someone who's really shouldn't be a teacher in the classroom, the damage they can do is obviously horrendous. There are some jobs like you wouldn't want to be a terrible brain surgeon. That's not going to go well for anybody. You can't hide behind that. You can't be a terrible goalkeeper. You can't hide behind that. You can't hide behind being a terrible teacher. That will very very soon out. um but you do get them. You do get them.
Is there any um oh, I would bet there are these the kind of teachers in the UK that would like to have these kinds of idiotic bills in place. Would that be fair to say?
I'm sure there would be,
Mm-hmm.
but I mean, those teachers themselves, we all we don't go around constantly or talking to children about sexual relations. We just don't do that. If that bill was brought into place in the UK, it's not going to make any difference whatsoever to levels of highly inappropriate behavior,
Mm-hmm.
because that highly inappropriate behavior is already illegal, with jail sentences waiting for you. A
Mm-hmm.
$10,000 fine or a jail sentence to me, you know, if the jail sentence isn't deterring you, a $10,000 fine won't be.
Mm-hmm.
Those sanctions are already in place. Um, so I can't see what it would change. But what it would do, like you said, it open the door for abuse, for people to pick on whatever particular teacher or subject they didn't want, and
Mm-hmm.
make up a reason to be offended about something ridiculously minor, and it would just cause headaches for everybody, wouldn't it?
It would. It would. Um, let's see. We have Plan and Walk. I
Oh, hey,
hobby.
Planner.
Yeah. Uh, saying there's also the problem with kids learning about these concepts from homophobes, like I did, and did grow up being a bit of homophobic because of that. Yeah, it that is also a good point. It's one thing to learn from about these topics and then learning it from an adult.
Hmm. Yeah, of course. When you're kids, you are impressionable, aren't you? And
It's like it's like an English teacher teaching physics or something of that nature. It's just completely wrong.
But
Horribly wrong. Okay. People, so please, at this point, please check the description box below. There are links. I may or may not have linked Catz's channel there. I hope I have. If I have not, I will do so after the stream. We have had a wonderful discussion. I think if you don't have any points to bring forth, I think it might as well be time to go for tonight. Any closing arguments and such? I believe you have somewhere to be later tonight.
oh yeah, later tonight we've got a debate on FTFE's channel. But no closing. I just think it's worth saying again. I've said it 4 or 5 times, but it's worth saying again that the kind of behaviour that is covered in this bill is already illegal. The punishments are already severe. They're already there. It's not solving any problems that aren't already solved by current legislation. But what it is doing is it is sensationalizing things that that aren't really happening to create a problem that isn't really there. To then allow the power of religion to come in and stomp it out.
Well said. Well said. And okay, I will see you in my viewers in the next one. Please like and subscribe, and then head over to Catz's channel. The link should be down below. See you next time.